Hello everyone, Ben here, and welcome back to the regions of the U.S. I'm going to go on a quick little digression first, because, well, I feel that since for a lot of the time I do a lot of political videos, stuff like that, I figure people are wondering why I didn't do a response to Charlottesville, considering I live in the state of Virginia. And there's a few reasons for that, okay? And I'm just going to run through them. The first is that, personally, I don't think I can add anything valuable to the discussion here. And that's just because I don't think I'm going to say anything new, insightful, relevant even. Well, relevant, duh. That actually I would say something relevant. But it wouldn't be new, it wouldn't be a fresh take, it wouldn't be something that hasn't been said a million times over. It also wouldn't be very definitive, because my opinion on the whole thing is both sides are acting like children. And someone needs to go in there and says, I don't give a shit who started it, I'll finish it. But anyway, moving on. The other reason is it can be broken down into a few points. So first, I don't think my opinion really matters in this case. Which is funny for a political channel to say, especially one that's opinion-based. But the reason why I don't think my opinion matters in this particular instance is it's a local event relevant only to Charlottesville. Charlottesville as the city voted to, number one, rename the park to Emancipation Proclamation Park rather than Robert E. Lee Park, or Robert E. Lee Park, as most people would know Robert E. Lee for. Second, and the other reason is, I don't live in Charlottesville. So my opinion doesn't matter to Charlottesville, unless somebody asks me directly what their opinion is, knowing full well that I don't really get a say in their politics. Okay? I don't vote in their elections. I shouldn't. It's not my place, is what I'm saying. So, sure, my opinion may be valid, but it's not my place to give my opinion. Okay? And plus, the city voted to remove the statue and rename the park, so that's their prerogative. Good for them for making a decision. Okay? Reason number two is, like all riots, I think everyone is to blame. Because when a riot happens, there's been a failure to communicate from both parties involved. Especially if it's a two-party riot, one group fighting another. Okay? There's been a failure to communicate, and that's a sin right there. Third point is that anything that deals with Confederate politics, anything that deals with the former Confederacy, is way, 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 way too complicated to even begin to talk about in a 10 to 15 minute video. There's no way I'm going to be able to cover all the bases, address both sides, discuss the nuances that are present, because it's surprisingly complex. There's a reason why it's such a touchy thing in the Deep South. Is because it isn't black and white as everybody loves it, as it's presented in school. It's not black and white. I live in a part of Virginia that voted against secession. And yet, I still on a daily basis see the battle flag of the Army in Northern Virginia. So, what the hell, right? That's what I'm trying to say, is it's too complicated an issue to even begin to discuss. So, instead, we're going to look at the Midwest and say, a bunch of good things about the Midwest. And I actually should have compiled my list together, but I can give a rough estimate of some stuff. Okay. Where is it? There we go. This is the one we're going to use. The list. Okay, so the Midwest, we'll start. Illinois, the only top 5 state, and by the way, we've hit all but one top 5 state in terms of GDP. So, and this one is not even a trillion. Illinois at 700 billion. And Pennsylvania, so we're at 1.4 trillion. Then Ohio, so we're actually at 2 trillion. Then we scroll all the way down to Michigan, which is the first outside of the top 10. So that's 2.4 trillion. Now we're at 2.7 trillion with Indiana, 3 trillion with Minnesota. Oh, sorry, Pennsylvania, so we have to take off. So we're at 2.3 trillion. I'm sorry, Pennsylvania doesn't count. Sorry, that one's on me. Minnesota and Wisconsin. So 2.6 trillion. Then we've got Iowa, would be the last state. So that's 2.7 trillion for the GDP of the Midwest, which is really good. Now let's actually look at population. Because that's something that might be useful. There we go. There we go. So, Illinois, so that's 12 million, and I should probably write that down, the numbers we've gotten so far. So, 2.7 trillion GDP, so we're at 12 million, 23 million, 32 million. Go up to Indiana, and that would be 38 million. 43 million, 48 million, and then 51 million. It's pretty populous, actually, just looking at it. Okay, so we can get GDP per capita by just taking the 100,000, 100 million, 100 billion. Okay, taking the GDP and then dividing it by 51 million. And we get a GDP per capita of $52,941 a year per capita. Interestingly enough, if I remember correctly, this is actually a smaller GDP per capita than the South. So this is actually our lowest GDP per capita. So if I remember correctly, New England states had the highest. Mid-Atlantic were second. The South is currently third. Midwest is currently dead last. So, okay, what have we solved here? Well, we figured out the, I'll call them the vital statistics for the states. Now, after the vital statistics, so it's a good region. Now, let's look at them politically. Okay, so it's a fairly swingy region, as evidenced by the fact that most of these states have split legislatures and governor's mansions in terms of which party they support. In addition, they are historically known as swing states, even if they do lean in one direction or another. And yeah, so there's only two states that I would call, there's only one state that I would say is reliably one party or another, and that's Illinois. Okay? And Illinois is a solid blue state through and through. It's almost impossible for a Republican to win there, just because of Cook County. Outside of Chicago, yeah, you'll see Republicans winning in the rural parts of Illinois. And the other thing I wanted to note about this region is that, from what I can tell, the rural-urban divide is extremely evident here. You'll notice all the big cities vote Democrat, everything else votes very Republican. And that's true for Illinois as it is for Minnesota, as Michigan, you get the point. Okay, so the other state that... So I'm going to go through... So the next one is... You've got two states that at least... No, you've got one state that is essentially reliably Republican, but if you've got a very strong Democrat candidate, they can win, and that would be Indiana. Okay? So that's that. So the true swing state, that would be Iowa. That would be Iowa. I would say it's a true swing state. It went for Bush once, it went for Obama twice, and it went for Trump. And I think and it's been fairly swingy all throughout. And it's very swingy. It went for Obama by like 7 points and Trump by 10. So that should tell you how swingy it is. Ohio is a Republican-leaning swing state, though it may be getting more and more Republican. And that's actually true for this entire region, is it's getting more and more Republican, but it's also losing population relative to the rest of the nation. They're still growing in terms of total population, but compared to the rest of the nation, they're just not growing by enough to keep their political power. And most of these states are going to lose electoral votes in 2020 or for 2024. Then we come to the Democrat-leaning swing states, and that would be Wisconsin, Michigan, and I know this is going to scare the crap out of you Democrats, but Minnesota has been evolving into what Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania used to be, which is Democrat-leaning swing states. Minnesota, you could write it off as, yeah, it's going to be moderately close, but there's no way it's voting Republican. Now it's getting to the point where Minnesota is starting to become more and more of a swing state and not just a Democrat battleground state, a state that Democrats are going to win. It's just a matter of how close. It's going to be. Like, is it going to be a 5-point victory, or is it going to be a 20-point victory? You know. But it's becoming, like I said, what Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania used to be. But Wisconsin and Michigan, I'd say these are these are swing states, but they're ever so slightly Dem lean. Like in a perfectly even election, Democrats will win those two states. But if there are a lot of other factors at play, they're just true swing states. But like I said, they lean Democrat. And Minnesota, like I said, is a lean Democrat swing state. These two are just even more lean. But yeah, that's just a general overview of the Midwest. Great people, by the way. That's the first thing that's the last thing I want to say about the Midwest is great people. No matter which state you're in, the people are probably going to be very kind to you. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a nice day, and I will see you guys next time whenever I do the West, or the Mountain West as some would call it, but I'm just calling it the West. Anyway, thank you so much. I'll see you next time.